Hi, this is Terry, and we're going to do macro and VBA. And if we were in the traditional classroom, then I would make this little example to do macros. So I'll delete some of this and just show you. First thing you do is type in period one and then use the fill handle and fill that across. And same thing you could do with the students and just copy that down. Remember, you have to have at least two cells for it to understand that you're doing a series. If I would have just done one cell, it would just copy the same number. Oh, it's doing it in series, but usually it just copies uh, the same thing. So student 7, then it just copies student 7 to student 7. So, all right, so let's continue on. So a friend of mine came to me and told me his mom worked at a grade school and that they kept track of um, the students, and they had a coding system. So one was absent um, for with permission. Then two was like a school outing. Three was medical, so that would be something like kids going to the dentist. Four was unexcused, and five was they just plain skipped class. So I put in some numbers here and said, okay, what if student here went to a school outing, so they did something for before class. Um, Maybe student number 9 here had uh, a dental appointment, so they went to that. Absent, with that's excused. Maybe these three are all sports or something that the student went to go play football. But then we have little Johnny here, who's student number 6, who skipped first period, second, and third period. But the only way that you can eat lunch is if you have to come to the class before lunchtime. So little Johnny shows up and then goes to fourth period, then eats lunch, sticks around for fifth period, and then by that time his brain is full, so he decides to skip the rest of the day. And what she was doing was she had over 500 students, and she would go in and enter in all of this data. It would take her an hour and a half at the end of the day to produce an absenteeism report. So my friend says, well, Excel, couldn't, that's ridiculous that she's spending that an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week. That's 7.5 hours, including lunch. That's one whole day's worth of work she spends producing this report. So I said, well, let me think about it. And I came back to him and I said, well, we can get this down to a button click that once she's entered that data in, we'll get it to the point where you just click the button. And let me show you how I solved it. So we put all this data in, and let me shrink this so we've got and get our normal view here so you can see everything. So what I did was I said, okay, let's do this. Let's put in totals. And then what we'll do is use the sum function. So if we go to home and go to auto sum, then we can sum all these periods, and then we'll copy this down. And the reason for this is we know that if anybody has a 0 when you sum, they were not absent at all for the day. But if they have any number other than 0, they were absent for some reason. And then at that point, we can apply a filter. So we can go to data and apply a filter and say that we want to sort a numbers filter, and we want to say if it's greater than, so is greater than 0. And if we wanted to, we could do an and sort under by other criteria, but that's all we need. Then we click OK, and other than our button here that we could, I don't know, what should we do? Should we just move it, I guess? We'll just move it out of the way and expand it down here. All right, so now what we have is this report. And if you've gone into the home, or excuse me, into the insert and have headers and footers, then I put in Chicago Grade School Absenteeism Report in the header, and in the footer, let me arrow down here, then what I did was I inserted the page number, the date, and the time. And you specifically want the date and the time because the date would be the absenteeism report for that day, but the time would be that if you ended up finding some more slips and going back up here into your data and entering them, um, then you'd run another report. You'd want to take the latest report in the day if you had more than one report. And then what we'd want to do is file and print, and then we can set this up to landscape and then be able to print this out. So we'd have the name of the student, what period, what their excuse was, and this total. We could hide it, do whatever we wanted to do. If we did want to hide it, um, all we'd have to do is go here and hit hide, and then when we print it wouldn't show, right? All right, now the issue is we'd be doing that every day. To unfilter it, we'd simply go back to this column and go back to our data and unclick the filter, and if we wanted to, we could delete all this and it would be back to normal. If we did this every day, that would just be such a waste of keystrokes. So what we want to do, and let me delete this, so we'll get rid of it, cut it. What we'd want to do is record this into a macro. So you'd put in the header, you put in the footers, put in this legend if you wanted to, put everybody's name in here in the periods, and then this would be blank, there'd be no numbers, and you'd save that as a template for the school year. And then you'd bring that up, and then to make the macro, you need to have the developer turned on. And if you haven't had the developer turned on, if you go to File and go to Options, and then go to Customize Ribbon, then you'll see the developer over on the right hand side. If that's not checked, check it, and then when you hit OK, then this tab will show up at the top. So we're going to go to this tab here and say we want to record a macro, and I'm going to call this absenteeism report, and in a macro name you can't have spaces. If we wanted to, we could make this something like Control A, which tells me I have to have Control Shift A because Control A is already used, so that's fine. We'd put a description, macro to print the absenteeism report. And now at this point, since I've already done that, at this point you'll see that stop recording button is the choice, which means that the recording is on. So every keystroke we make, it's going to show up. So I'll click in this cell and type in totals. I'll click up here, up above, and go to home and go to the auto sum. Oops, I want to be in this spot, sorry. Click in auto sum, highlight the cells I want it to sum, hit enter, and then copy it down. Ching, ching, ching. Then I'll click the J column, and in the data tab, I'll click filter, click the down arrow, numbers filter is greater than, and type in a 0. And now I will hit um, file, and then print. Double check it, make sure it's what I want. Hit the print command, so it's printed. And now if I want to, I could turn that filter off and delete everything. And now go back to the developer and say stop recording. So if I go to my macros button and click on absenteeism report and click edit, there's all the code that the computer generated that we would either have to know all this code and write it, or what we did was we let the computer write it for us. So selecting the range, putting in the totals, selecting J2, summing the columns, uh, you know, copying it down, everything that we did, hitting the print button, and then clearing out the filter and clearing out the contents was all done based on this code. And now to get that to work, I click the X and click out of here, because you'll notice that I'm in the Visual Basic for Applications, right? So I click, and now what I can do is in my Developer tab, I can go to Insert and then take the top one or the bottom one, either the Form Control, or the ActiveX, and I can highlight it. And now I've made a command button. I can right click and go to Format, change anything I want, the height, the width, etc. And then what I'll do is assign it. I'll go to Properties up here. It's called Command Button 1, which I can just call CMD Absenteeism Report. This wouldn't be necessary, but you can do it if you want. The caption is what shows up on the button. So I can put absenteeism space report, because since it's a caption, you can have spaces. Up here under the name, you cannot have spaces. And then what I want to do is when I click that, then I'm going to call. So I just double click the button and I'm going to put in call absenteeism report. And now clear out of everything. And when I turn off the design mode, now this will be hot. And when I click it, did you see it? Should we do it again? Watch this column. So what it did was it executed all those commands. So when I go to the printer now, I'm going to see 3 reports. One that was there because I clicked print when I was creating the macro, and then the other 2 because I clicked this button twice. So now all this lady has to do is when she's ready to print out a report, all she has to do is click this button and she's got it. That saved an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week. So we've got 7.5 hours of work is now 5 clicks of this button. All right, that's the end of part 1.